So you've unboxed your brand new MIG 181 and you're keen to start welding. In this video, we're going to go through everything you need to know to get the machine set up. The first thing we need to do is attach a plug. The MIG 181 does not come with a plug fitted, and that's because it can either run on a 13 amp or a 16 amp single phase supply. So fit the plug which best suits you. Before we fit the torch, we need to make sure that the tip matches the filler wire we're going to be using. To do this, simply pull the shroud off the end of the torch. It will be written on the side of the tip as to what diameter is currently installed. If you want to change this, you can simply use a pair of pliers or the tool provided in the box. With all that checked and the machine switched off, we can line up the torch pins with the socket on the front of the machine. Push the torch in and then screw it down. The gas, wire and power will run through this torch, so ensure it's a snug fit. Take your earth lead and line the plug up with the negative slot on the front of the machine. This locks into place by simply pushing and twisting. Attach the supplied regulator to your gas bottle, then fit the supplied gas hose to your regulator. The other end of the gas hose fits to the gas inlet found on the back of the machine. Now you can use some PTFE tape if you want to, and we do not recommend over tightening these bolts as we don't want to risk damaging any of the fitments. To fit the wire, open up the hatch on the side of the machine. Remove the wire retention cap, making sure you don't lose the spring. Take your wire and position this onto the arm, then reinstall your retention cap and spring. Open up the wire tensioner by pushing left on the arm. Make sure that the groove on the roller matches the wire thickness that you're using. If it doesn't, simply unscrew the cap, slide off the roller, rotate it and then push it back on. When taking the end of the wire off the spool, we do recommend wearing eye protection and gloves. This is because the wire will have a tendency to try and spring off of the spool. With the wire feeding from the back of the spool, thread this through the guide spring, over the roller and into the torch. You can then put down the tension clamp and secure this in place. With the machine switched on and the gas switched off, take your torch and hold down on the trigger. Release the trigger when the wire pops out of the end of the torch. Now there are a few different ways to set the wire tension. However, our technical team prefer this method. They suggest grabbing hold of the spool of wire within the machine. Once you pull the trigger, the spool should turn with little resistance and then stop when you apply slight pressure. If it's too loose, you'll notice the rollers just spinning, or the wire will possibly slip. If the tension is too high, you'll notice the wire spool around the rollers, and this is known as bird's nesting. We can now switch on the gas and adjust our flow rate. To switch on the gas, open up the valve on the bottle just enough to let gas flow into the regulator. To adjust the flow rate, look at the guide labelled litres per minute. You can adjust this by turning the dial on the regulator. For MIG welding, we always recommend around 12 to 14 litres per minute. It's worth noting that the flow rate may change when you pull the trigger on the torch, and we do recommend a flow meter for a more precise setting. So we've attached our power supply, plugged in our torch and earth lead, installed our wire and hooked up our gas. We've also set the correct wire tension, and we've also set the correct flow rate on the gas. Our machine is now set up and ready to start welding. If you do have any questions regarding the setup of your machine, please give us a call or drop us an email. We are also available on Facebook and Instagram, so feel free to drop us a direct message on there.